Welcome to Truth Talk Live.
All right, let's talk.
The truth is, I can't hide it. I can't hold it no more.
A daily program powered by the Truth Network,
This is kind of a great thing, and I'll tell you why.
where pop culture, current events, and theology all come together.
Speak
Your mind.
And now, here's today's Truth Talk Live host.
Well, it is commencing to be that season of graduation or commencement, right? And like what an amazing thing. If you recall back to your own graduation, whether that was from high school, maybe you could remember when you graduated from elementary school or whatever. Kindergarten, yeah, all right. Preschool, all that. There's a lot of graduations out there, but. In this season, right, a lot of people have a chance to give commencement addresses, and I'm with, Dr. Date the Word commencement address himself, Carson right here. But it's an amazing thing. He wanted to talk about this. I thought, what would you, and I'm asking you this, so you'll call in live, by the way, what would you tell your graduating self, whether that was graduating from high school or graduating from college, if you could give yourself a commencement address now, what would you tell yourself? 866-348-7884, 866-348-7884. And I got to tell you that having been around Dr. Carson, his life was radically changed on more than one occasion by a graduation. Yes. And one of those was James Dobson came to speak at Liberty one year, right?
Yes, he did. And I picked him up. And so at the airport, I have to bring in, he has a bag, and it has a tennis trophy in it. Some trophy with some tennis guy on it. Like, what is this?
And
anyway,
he doesn't look like a tennis player.
Yeah, and at that point, but I found out that he used to play tennis back in Southern California, and he won this great Southern California tournament. And he had the trophy there, and so he's giving a speech. I had to put it up by the podium, and all of a sudden as he's giving the speech and he's talking about what's important in life and stuff, he picks up this trophy. And he begins to tell how one day he came home and his wife had taken this trophy and had thrown it in the trash can. And he's like, Shirley, how in the world could you do this? This is my trophy for winning this tournament. And she looked at him and said, James, seriously, this is what's important to you now? And as only James Dobson at that moment, he coined the phrase, life will trash your trophies. So you better know what you're playing for. And then he went on to give there's eternal rewards in heaven that don't get thrown in the trash. But I never forgot that statement, Robbie. Life will trash your trophies. I can see him right now in our big Vine Center speaking to the students, and I had no idea. He didn't give me any clues. He just said, please have this set up by the podium. And that graduation, I would think, to this day, I would hope that every Liberty student that was there that day, that still rings, because for a commencement speech, you really do want to be brief and to the point, because everybody wants to be out of there. And they got other things they want to be doing. And so you want to say something that's memorable. And that, to me, was one of the most memorable moments I've ever had in a commencement.
All right. So maybe it's something you remember that you actually did hear at your commencement, or maybe you heard it from any graduation that you may have attended somebody else's, like Dr. Carson. 866, the number to call in and share, right? 866-348-7884. 866-348-7884. I graduated from high school. I never graduated from college, as you know, Dr. Carson. So I graduated from high school in 1973.
Wow.
In Albuquerque, New Mexico, El Dorado High School.
El Dorado. There's a movie by that name.
Lots of them. Anyway, if I could go back,
Yes.
I would give myself these two same pieces of advice that were the best two pieces of advice I ever got in my life. I didn't get them at a commencement address. But if I could have given myself them when I was 17 rather than now when I finally got them, was the first one came from Norman Vincent Peale when I read The Power of Positive Thinking. And the set that came with it, he said, and I don't remember a single thing about this book or nothing else about the whole thing other than I remember this. If you want to have the power of positive thinking, you need to get up an hour earlier every morning and read the Bible. But before you do that, you need to pray, because there's no way you're going to understand it without the help of the Holy Spirit, which I was not a Christian when I read that. It made no sense to me whatsoever. However, I paid over $100 for that tape set in that book. And I thought, well, I don't know. I've never read the book. I have no idea. But so I did it. And
you started Genesis?
I started in Genesis, just like where else would you?
Where else would you start?
Oh, my goodness. I came to Christ through that, but I also developed that habit of getting up an hour earlier or even earlier. And as you know, Psalm 1 came to life for me. That, oh, my goodness, it became the love of my life to get up an hour early and read the Bible. So that's just one of the two things that I would tell my commencement self. Just one piece of advice. If you just take this one, it will radically change everything in your life. And the fruit that piece of advice, gave me. So how about you? If you could go back and give yourself a commencement address, or if you were given a chance to give a commencement address, what piece of advice was the best you ever got, or close? A simple message like life will trash your trophies or whatever that may be. I would, there's a lot of people listening that, believe me, they're commencing, whether they understand it or not. We're commencing into the next generation every single day, and we need it. 866-348-7884. What would you say? So, Doc, you've given a bunch of these addresses.
Well, I don't know about a bunch, but I have done some, and I always try to bring people to make that begin with the end in mind. Fear God and keep His commandments. I always try to, you got to think that long term. And Solomon in Ecclesiastes goes after all the wrong things. And the beauty of us having the book of Ecclesiastes and the book of Proverbs is that we have a person who's been there, done that, tried it, and found out it failed miserably. And so after all these failures in the book of Ecclesiastes, he says, fear God and keep His commandments. And again, the arrangement of the Bible is interesting. If I was arranging the Bible, I would have Ecclesiastes before Proverbs, because then after the book of Ecclesiastes, fear God, what's the first thing you get in Proverbs? If you want wisdom, fear God. This is the beginning of wisdom. So for me, a commencement ought to always be, again, you're now living a life, but what kind of life are you going to live? Because there's going to be an eternal life. So fear God, keep His commandments. This is the whole of man.
Don't make king-size mistakes.
Don't make king-size mistakes. Wow, that's good. And Solomon did he not?
Oh, it's beyond sad, because there's so many levels of how that breaks my heart.
Yeah,
because his son, right? That's one thing. We have children, right? We don't want to see our children not enjoy, right, the fruit of a relationship with the Lord. And no doubt his father's relationship, had an effect on Rehoboam. We'll say it that way. All right. What say you as you're commencing out there? Commence to call us, 866-348-7884, 866-34-TRUTH. We'll be right back.
You're listening to the Truth Network and truthnetwork.com.
It's commencement season here at Truth Talk Live, and as we're thinking about that whole idea of commencing, what might you, if you were doing your commencement address, what might you tell yourself, or what's something you heard one time, or what's some wisdom that we all need? We certainly do need it. We would love to have your call, 866-348-7884, 866-348-7884. We do have a couple of calls. We got Susan is in Ohio. Susan, you're on Truth Talk Live.
My. I've never done this before, but I couldn't resist this one.
Well, thank you.
I'm old. I'm in my 70s, okay? So,
You're young. Do not say that.
I graduated high school in 1967.
Good for
okay?
you. All right.
Back when we used typewriters to learn to type.
I know.
I remember that.
Ah.
And my typing teacher, there's so many stories in my life. Everybody's got a story. But I had changed high schools because of my parents' situation. Anyway, second high school I went to, typing teacher says, no sense in taking other secretarial classes because you'll never work in an office. Your typing is too slow. Okay, I was accurate, but I was slow. At that time, we had manual typewriters, and it was 40 words a minute, but I was accurate. Okay, so I dropped all the other classes I planned on. God had so much in store. I'll tell you, that's the one thing to tell students. God has so much in store for you, you don't know what it's going to be like. My job after high school, I worked in an office. They were looking for somebody that was accurate and not fast. They said speed comes with time. And back at that time, it was a small loan company, and everything. They could use household items as collateral.
Wow.
And everything had to be accurate. And we typed it carbon paper. There wasn't.
Oh, yeah, I remember it all very well.
You know, and so if you had a man range, for example, you had to type that up. And I was accurate. So there you go, you know, and they always tested people way back then, and I was like, I was a terrible high school student because of my situation. I was like a D average, but when it came to all the testing that they did back then for employers, I was the top out of 100 girls that applied for the job. So you never know what God has in store. You never know. Nothing lasts forever. This too shall pass. If it looks bad, and my parents were both, my father was married 3 times, my mother twice. My father says, I broke the curse, the family curse on his side. I was married until March of this year. My husband passed. I was married almost 57 years. And happily. Praise God. I tell you every day, there's miracles happen all around you. So just hang in there. It gets better.
Susan, I can just say we can tell by the joy that's in your heart why you were able to break that curse. Why God came alongside of you. That's absolutely beautiful. And I love the story about, I was telling somebody the other day, I took calculator math in high school. And back then, there was no electric calculator. There were rows of numbers that like the first row was the single digit. Then there was another 2 zeros, 3 zeros, 4 zeros. And you had to pull this handle. Boom. And they called that a calculator. And I always laugh now when you think about, especially a manual typewriter that I can remember typing papers on. I mean, you had to slam them keys down.
Oh, yeah.
Especially if you had carbon paper.
And And if you have your manager, the president of the company looking over your shoulder, it's even worse, especially if you're a shy person and they like to click their false teeth, I mean, it can get really interesting. And then when I was in my 30s, I'd become a homemaker for 13 years, and our cost of living changed big time in the 70s and 80s.
Yeah, it did.
People, they don't know about the high interest rates of 18 and 21%. And the cost of living during that time went up over 400%. And jobs were disappearing. Factories were closing. My husband couldn't find a job. Anyway, make it a little shorter here. I ended up having to go back to school to prove I still knew how to answer a typewriter, answer a phone, and use a typewriter, and I'm nervous, and various things I could do in an office. By then, you still needed a piece of paper, and my timing was such, God watched over me again, that I ended up with another job that lasted me 28 years until I retired in 2014 due to my husband's stroke. So it's just one of those things that God's amazing. He's absolutely amazing, because that job and the opportunities came along at a time I could help my family.
God bless you. Well, keep up the great work, Susan. God bless you.
I tell you, it's absolutely amazing.
Yes, it is. Amazing. Thank you for your call. It means so much to us, really does. God bless you. Have a great afternoon and commencement time.
You have a blessed day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
All right. How about you? 866-348-7. I liked what she said, right? Mm-hmm. God has got lots in store for you. Yeah. Don't let people get you down. We got Jamal is in Winston-Salem. Your call's 866-348-7884. What you got for us, Jamal?
Well, Mr. Dilmore and Dr. Carson, I'm so glad you guys gave me time to give a commencement speech address. I'm just so thankful for you all. I don't know what to say. I'll try not to take 2 hours to give my speech. I hope that's okay. Is that all right?
Yeah, go ahead and commence.
5 B's, baby. 5 B's. Be brief, brother. Be brief.
Okay. All right. I'll condense my 2 hours into 2 minutes. I'll do it just for you guys. So what I would say to myself, because I don't really know if I would be allowed, if I could address a whole stadium full of people. My father did, and he did a very good job. I was very impressed. That gene, unfortunately, did not pass on to me, so I would address myself. And what I would say would be, you have to get into the Word, whether it's online, through a Bible study, through church, through Truth Network. Being in the Bible has dramatically changed my life. It can change other people's lives. So I would start there and just live out your life through the way Jesus did, the way the apostles did. And I would toss in some other kind of colorful examples. But my main thing would be to get in the Word and live out the life that Jesus Christ lived.
I love what you said, Doc. He used 2 of your B's. Be in the Bible.
Be in the Bible.
Jamal, I got to say, that would be one of the very first things I wish somebody had really, instilled in me the idea, because I would have not thought that at all. Yeah. But it literally, like you know all too well, and I know Dr. Date, the Word himself, certainly knows that. I mean, it's not just a book; it's a relationship.
It has the ability to change, to bring about transformation. Math doesn't do that. Science doesn't do that. But this book is alive.
That's right.
And we may have a listener right now that, Jamal, to follow up on what you said, I just saw someone posted this, and I love when people do this. Hey, here's a tip. Read the book of Proverbs. You want to get started. I'm not sure where to start. Start with Proverbs. Don't start with Leviticus. Don't start with Job. Start with Proverbs and read the chapter that matches the date of the month. So today is the 28th. Read Proverbs 28. So simple, but all of a sudden you're getting tremendous wisdom from God.
All right. Well,
Amen.
Thank you, my friend.
Thank you. God bless.
We got 2 B's. You got 3 left to go out there. 866-348 7884. Commence to calling us. 866-34-TRUTH.
You're listening to the Truth Network and truthnetwork.com.
It is commencement time here on Truth Talk Live. And, almost every day we graduate in a way.
Yes.
And every moment we have a chance to give ourselves some wisdom or accept some wisdom from somebody. And so as we really enter into this season and we're thinking about these things, and I had a chance to go to an amazing high school graduation last week at Faith Christian School in Ramseur, North Carolina. One of our seniors was graduating, and I got to tell you, oh my goodness, did they put on a show? I was just shocked at all that went on, all the way that they honored their graduates and prepared them. But what would you say at a commencement address? What would you tell your graduating teenage self, as the case may be, or what might you have heard that's amazing wisdom? We got Mike is in Dayton, Ohio. Some people call him Truth Talk Mike, but nonetheless, Mike, you are on Truth Talk.
How you doing, sir? Thank you for taking my call. I've talked to you before today.
Yes.
But that's okay.
Yes.
I would, a lot of times your life feels like you're on fire. You're just trying to put out fires, and then and you stop, drop, and roll when you're on fire, But I really learned this mostly, I would say, in the last year, maybe two. Stop, drop, and pray.
Yes.
Just stop what you're doing and stop trying to fix what's going on, and stop and say, Lord, help me here. And it really does help. It helps you to calm down. It helps you to have your spirit mind. You get wisdom from God when you do that. It's just, I just wish I would have learned that earlier in my life. And I think I wouldn't have been so hot-headed. You know what I mean?
Well, you know what I just learned recently, and this may seem a bit nerdy for some, or maybe like Robby, you tend to go crazy sometimes. Well, I'm going to do that. So Psalm 74, if you look carefully, it's a description of what happened in Egypt when Moses went before Pharaoh, et cetera, and the way it's described is there's two different kinds of serpents, and in Hebrew there's three different kinds of serpents. There's the serpent in the garden that obviously affected all of us. And that particular serpent, it starts with the N sound, the fetch, however you want to put that exactly. But there's another kind of serpent that's called a sea serpent. It's probably pronounced tannin, something like that. It definitely starts with a tav. And it is the one that Moses threw down to take on, the Pharaoh's other guys, his magicians put down other serpents. And there's a third that's called a Leviathan that you might be familiar with. And it's kind of amazing how God came up against chaos in a way. And you may have heard that, we're constantly in a battle against the disorder of the world. Like God has a world that's in order. And so what the Egyptians had done is created this amazing bunch of sea monsters, which were these tannin, these serpents, the kind that Moses threw down, that his serpent ate the other serpents, as a picture to Pharaoh of what was going to happen to his worldview. And then, in the 74th Psalm, it goes on to say that you broke the head of Leviathan and you fed him to other people. Well, Leviathan is an image of Pharaoh himself. Are you following me so far, Mike?
Yeah, some. Yeah.
Okay.
I am.
So the world would like to convince you of all sorts of things, by the way. You know, the world thinks that it's, you know, you should dress a certain way. Do you need to drive this kind of car? You need to keep up with the Joneses. There's all sorts of things that the world's going to try to do. And it's like a sea monster, and it's attacking all of us constantly, whether we know it or not. But Leviathan, that's a different kind of serpent. And that is Pharaoh. According to all the ancient Hebrew study you can do, that you can find that there's a relationship between Leviathan and Pharaoh. And the word Pharaoh in Hebrew, the root of it is your neck. And the most difficult distance to travel in all the world is the difference between your head and your heart. It's down at that 18-inch trip between your head and your heart. Well, in the middle of that is your neck. And if you can imagine that thing choking out your thoughts and just hearing it going, let my people go. and so the reason why we think our world is on fire constantly is that there's this restriction between what we think in our head and what our heart knows about God, and trying to get that distance. Look at the 74th Psalm clearly, and it says, you broke the head of Leviathan. We can't break the head of Leviathan on our own. It takes God to break that head. And so we think we're going to take on these fires, it's just what you described, Mike. But we can't break the head of Leviathan. Only God can.
And that's why you stop, drop, and pray.
Right.
Go to the one who has the ability.
Right. And so I'll just give you a little more appreciation of the 74th Psalm.
Well, thank you.
And nerd out a little bit on you. But I was just thinking about that today, Mike. And so when you brought it up, I was like, that is beyond like cool how God helped me with what you, and I couldn't agree with you more, because I know you well enough to know you do stop and pray when you're in these situations, and so does Dr. Carson. And so
we learned from Nehemiah.
Great wisdom.
He was doing his battle.
Right.
He did that. He stopped, dropped, and he prayed. So I prayed. And one of the things I love, Mike, is we don't have to pray a lot to have prayed a lot. Nehemiah said, strengthen my hands. That's all he needed to say. Peter, help, Lord. Why do you have to keep drowning when all you have to do is say, help, Lord?
So you gave another commencement announcement, right?
Yes.
You don't have to pray a lot to pray a lot. I think Lot would have agreed with you. Just saying, Mike. I couldn't resist. But it's
I agree.
I agree. That's fun stuff. But stop, drop, and pray.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be great to know how many hours have we spent, or how much struggle have we had trying to put out those fires? That's a great piece of advice, Mike. Thank you, my friend.
You're welcome,
God
sir.
bless you. I appreciate it. 866, the number to call with your, you're speaking to your 18-year-old self, or 24, depending on you graduate from high school, college. Maybe you're graduating from medical school. 866-348-7884. And so there you are. You've gone through all these years of education, and now you've been through clinicals, and you've been through your residency, and oh my goodness, all the things that a doctor like that has to go through in the journey.
Yeah.
But none of that necessarily gives you a dime of wisdom.
So you went to a high school graduation the other night, a couple weeks, maybe a week ago, and it was exhilarating. Is that what I'm getting? It was exciting, fun.
It was, and it probably wasn't 35 graduates.
Yeah.
Maybe 40, I don't know, but it was small. Yeah. But it was 2 hours of celebrating, and the tears that came, just from the stories and the stuff the parents and the graduates did stuff for their parents, and the thing, it was just really, really cool, because you're a parent,
yeah.
And you know what it's like when your child graduates, and it's like, oh man, this season's over.
So here's what I told all 4 of my children at their graduation, And here's what I would tell me now back at my graduations. We've been thinking on this thought. Don't let this be the highlight of your life.
Wow.
Yeah. Because it seems like for some people, getting that high school diploma, getting that college diploma, I've arrived. No, commencement is you are now being launched. So don't let this be the highlight of your life. Liberty University now, when it does its graduation, does it at night with the massive fireworks at the end. I mean, everybody who goes there like, this has been so incredible, but don't let this be the highlight of your life. I think the highlight for me, Robbie, is going to be when I do get to heaven, I'm worshiping before the Lord, and then he says, well done, my good and faithful servant. That to me is going to be the highlight.
That's a different kind of commencement, and that's
sure
not the best is still yet to come, right?
That's right. The best is yet to come.
And so I was thinking about, I told you there were two pieces of advice.
Yes, we've got one
and
of them.
I gave you the one about getting up an hour early. The other best piece of advice I ever got in my life was, and it has to do with Mike's advice as well, and it came from a pastor emeritus. And again, I wasn't a Christian when I heard this advice, but it hit me right in the heart, in my truth detector. He said, if God is really God, then he knows everything you're fixing to tell him. He said, if God is really God, you have 2 ears and 1 mouth. Do the math. When it comes to prayer, you need to listen. And again, I that made really it hit me right there. Like this is that makes perfect sense to me. Like if God is God, he does know. Yeah. And what do you mean I can hear from God? Do you mean to tell me that I can literally hear from God? And of course, John 10 would tell us that his sheep hear his voice. And I don't know if you've ever heard the thing on the bummer lambs that I think her name was Shirley. Anyway, she talked about these lambs that would be kicked away by their mother, and the shepherds would take them up, because they weren't being cared for, and they would hold them next to their chest and talk to them, and they would hear their heartbeat. But then when they went and called the sheep out in the field, the bummer lambs would be the first to come, because they knew the shepherd's voice, right? Yeah. And man, when you get that, that's some sweet stuff. We'll be right back.
You're listening to the Truth Network and truthnetwork.com.
Yes, I do love that music.
Memories.
Yes, we are talking commencement today.
It's that season.
Well, it is that season. And I love what Dr. Carson said about, you are commencing on what the next thing will be. And as we enter into the season, what would you tell your graduating self? Or what would you tell your young graduate? Or if you had a chance to give that address, or maybe you heard something one time that has stuck with you all these years that made an impact, what is it? 866, that wisdom is so valuable. Who knows what life you might change really by sharing something today. 866-348-7884, 866-348-7884. And I think, Doc, you have a very, you have another commencement story. It's kind of hard to hear, but I think for a lot of pastors out there, or all of us to an extent, I think there's something we can learn from it.
Well,
but I better ask people to call first. 866-348-7884. 866-348-7884. But go ahead, Doc.
Well, graduation for me took on a whole different component because of something happening right after graduation. I graduated from seminary in 1989, and we had a lot of things planned that day. And my mom came to the graduation. My dad, it was on a Monday. He wasn't able to come because working at the Lynchburg Livestock Market, whose sale is every Monday at 1 o'clock. Well, my mom worked at the stockyard also, but she came to be there for my graduation from getting my master's degree. And during the service, Dr. W.A. Criswell is bringing the challenge to change the world for Christ and be a champion for Christ, all those different things. But at the end, he asked if we graduates would make a commitment to serve the Lord with all of our hearts. Stand to your feet. He always wanted to give an invitation where you had to take some kind of action. And so I stood to my feet. I'm going to serve the Lord. Well, then he asked, unexpectedly, if the parents who are there would support their graduate as they went out to serve the Lord, would they stand to their feet? Well, it just happened that day that my mom was sitting in front of me. She was at the front row of the graduation setup. And so I'm looking forward, and I can see her as she now stands up. And she's one of the few parents that are sitting at that level. And so now she's able to turn around, and she knew where I was. And so I see her, she sees me. And what a cool moment. Graduation would end. As we walked out, I hugged her. She had to get back to work, and we had other activities that we were going to be a part of that day. And that was Monday. Sunday morning, I get a phone call, and it turns out that the last time I saw my mom alive was at that graduation where she stood up to say, I support you as you serve the Lord. And then we got to see her to say goodbye and hug. And then she went her way and I went my way. But it was at that graduation last time. And it just hit me of, you just never know what a graduation is going to bring about. Because my mom, on Mother's Day, 1989, graduated to heaven. And I'm so glad Dr. Criswell gave an invitation for parents to let their child know, I support you. And I'll never forget that.
No.
I'll never forget it.
I can't even imagine that moment. You saw your mom. She's looking at you, and a keepsake for eternity, right?
Yes.
Until you see her again. And, and he told me that. It convicted me that, you're a lot of us are given opportunities to speak at different events, and God puts it on your heart to do stuff like that. It's easy to back off.
Mm-hmm. It is. It really is.
It's easy to back off. Don't back off. Yeah. Because you don't know, what moment that God has for somebody that they'll be able to hang on to. I think it's a keepsake, a beautiful moment. I'm so glad you shared that. And so what does that bring up in you? God brought something about at your graduation. 866-348-7884. I would love to hear, really love to hear. 866-348-7884. Well, you have something written down there, Doc. You've yet to spill the beans, and so I'm curious.
Well, on the aspect of be brief, brother, be brief, I'm not going to say the person who spoke at one of our baccalaureate services, but they spoke for an hour and 15 minutes. I don't remember a thing, okay?
Except that he spoke for an hour and 35 minutes.
I'm like, you got to be kidding me. So I always said, because Winston Churchill said, never give up, never give up, never give up, and he went and sat down. Now, there's different versions of that, but basically he had was considered the shortest commencement dress ever. Never give up. All right. Well, I thought when it comes to a Christian school, if I could just give one word. Now, they already know about being saved and all that. So, all right. Graduates, others. And then go sit down. Because life is totally different when you get up and you think about others. Real joy is Jesus first, others second, yourself last. And we have 50, I've counted at least 56 different actions to take for others. And my father-in-law, at some early point in his Christianity, made a decision that he was going to start living for others. And he went and got a piece of wood, got it carved, and had the word others written on it, and hung it over the door where you go out. So every morning as he went out of his house to head to work, he had a sign right over that door that said others. And today I have one of those signs hanging over my door, and that's how he lived. And I always thought that's the way the Christian life is supposed to be. If Jesus is first, others will be next. You're not going to be trying to make something of yourself. You're trying to make something of others.
That's cool. Yeah, and so, you heard that. How about you? Maybe your father-in-law, maybe your father had some wisdom or some saying that highly impacted you. Again, I think it's really a great practice. It's a great, something to discipline to really drill down on what was the best piece of advice I got in my life. It was 2 or 3 or 4 that somebody gave me that it made. I took them up on it, and it really, really changed my life. And I can assure you that if you go to man camp with Nikita Koloff, he's got some stuff that really just, it seems simple, but if you do it, it will impact. It will bear much fruit. And of course, in order to do that, you got to be somewhere close to Jesus, because it says, apart from me, you can do nothing.
Well, when you think about what is the Christian life, it's to abide in Jesus. And I like the fact, again, when I look at our dictionary, I'm going to find the word abide very close to the very top. So how does the Christian life start? It starts by you learning to abide in Jesus. Apart from him, you can do nothing. And we've heard some great statements already made today here. Get in the Word. Get in the Word. And then stop, drop, and pray. When these things are taking place, your life's going to start finding that order that it needs. And it doesn't mean your life's going to be free from pain or trials or failures. I've thrown this out. I don't know if I do it at a commencement or not, but if it's worth doing, it's worth doing poorly. And that just shocks the daylights out of people, because it's shocked you, because you always say, if it's worth doing, it's worth doing well. But if we have to have excellence to do anything before we start, we're never going to get started. Look at all the failures that Edison had when it came to the light bulb. You're going to fail. And as you look back, I always go back to the Liberty University story. The people who came in 71, there's nobody at Liberty right now that would have come in 71. Oh, my word. The sacrifices they made to be a part of that, and the places they lived in, the food they ate, it was just, there's no way. But it got started. It was started poorly, and then it kept building. And you look at your life.
There's a Bible verse like, don't despise the day of small.
There it is.
If I'm Right.
That's it. Don't despise the day of small things. That could be a great commencement. Hey, listen, folks, you got to get Robby Dilmore to come speak at your graduation. The Christian car guy, he's got a message. Don't despise the day of small things.
Well, thank you all for listening. Thank you for your wisdom, and look forward to a whole lot more tomorrow with Nikita Koloff, the Russian Nightmare. We'll be here live.
Truth Talk Live.